I love the thought that you could be walking down the street and maybe that guy that you just saw rounding the corner is secretly a werewolf.
Welcome to the Sunday Spark. Today, I'm super excited to be talking to Jasmine Kuliasha. She is a amazing, bold, and very imaginative storyteller who works in the space of like folk tales and cryptids and how that collides with modern day life. And I'm really excited to talk to her today because she has this one amazing background in robotics and this like corporate career life that she walked away from to pursue writing. And I think in like 3 short years has turned into like full-fledged, full-time author. Her debut novel, The Midnight Pack, came out this past summer. It blends that real world with that urban supernatural. And we're gonna dive in and talk to her about like how does she bring some of that analytical curiosity from her past corporate career life into that mythical wonder that she creates in her stories. So with that, I would like to welcome Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you. The more research I've done in preparation for this conversation, the more excited I've been to talk to you because I think you just have a real sparkle about your author life. And I'm so excited to dive
You.
in about like where that comes from. So first, just a little bit of like, we're both big fans of chit chat and like
Yes.
dilly-dallying and yapping a little bit. So I wanted to just chat with you about a couple of things. First, just as like a little get to know you. So first, you had a really incredible post on Instagram that was like, I left a career I didn't love to write a book. And I am like definitely a fellow career exit like cheerleader. I'm a wannabe. I've got like a 5-year plan. How did you go from that being an idea to actually committing to that level of bravery to quit what is, I'm guessing, a very lucrative career in pursuit of a creative career that can be quite risky?
That can be quite risky. So I was fortunate to have a lot of support from my husband, and he is the one who encouraged me to do
Mhm.
it. So I had worked for, and let me back up a tiny bit. My corporate career was pretty cool too. And so
Yeah.
don't want to knock on that. I worked for a robotics company called Sphero. I was there when they made the BB-8 toy that was the most
No.
across the world. It was
Just
a
the
global
coolest robotic
bestseller.
toy that's been like
Right?
released.
It was
Yeah.
it's really cool. And then that company pivoted to a more educational robotics role. And I'm here to entertain. I was in it for the entertainment. So I went to an aerospace robotics company
Mm.
and I was a program manager for aerospace robotics. And things that I managed either are in space currently or are going to space soon, which is also like really cool. But it wasn't sparking joy. And
Yeah.
I was sad. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't happy. And my husband noticed that and he was like, "Why aren't you happy?"
And if you get to that point in your career too, where it's like you can tell, like, okay, if you're actually creating things that are going to be in space, are going into space, like it's not that you haven't given this career a fair shot to really bring that fulfillment. Like you're at a point where you're like, if this was going to spark that joy and fulfill my soul, I would know it by now because you've reached
Yeah,
that level of like independence, autonomy, influence. Like, so if you get there and you're like, it's still not doing the
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And especially like it is like arguably it's very cool, like robotics in
Mhm.
space. That's really cool. And if that wasn't that wasn't sparking that joy, like you said, like that was the wrong place. And so we talked about it and I said, this I've always wanted to write. I just never thought it was a thing that I could do. When you talk about career paths as a kid, it's like go get a degree that you can use
And
that
once you're a
really
very famous person or a successful business person or whatever, then you can quiet
yeah,
down and write your book. Yeah.
exactly. So I was like, I gave myself a year. I said let's see if I can write a book and see what happens in a year. And it
Mhm.
ended up taking longer than a year, but I did write my book, The Midnight Pack, and then I shared it with some friends who said this is great, query it. And so I did. The querying process takes a really long time. And I almost quit too at one point. But another author, Brienne Randall, actually reached out to me and said, "Don't quit, keep going. You never know." And
Yeah.
so I sent one more last batch of queries out, and my yes was in that next one that I sent out.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so it really felt like all the pieces were falling into place. while I was querying the Midnight Pack, I was writing another book unrelated to that on the side. And I started sending that out to agents as I was winding down my query process for the Midnight Pack. I ended up getting this 3 book deal through Orbit for the Midnight Pack. So it's a 3 book series. Then simultaneously, I got an agent for my other book. So yeah, I feel very much like I picked the right path.
Yeah, I think I've talked to so many authors, and the path to success looks different for everyone because success looks different for everyone. But one thing I hear over and over again that I'm like, if I was to say there's one universal kind of rule about success in authorhood, it's community. And like literally that moment where you're like, I was about to quit, and then someone was like, you really can't, like, you're too good. Your voice needs to be out there, your story needs to be out there. And it's like that one like pivotal moment kept you in the game just a little bit longer to see the rewards of all of your hard work. And I think whether that's in the form of, yeah, like someone like cheering you on, whether it's people helping you figure out how to navigate like the complexities of what good querying looks like, because that's it's not there's how do I put this? There's not like one comprehensive guide of like how to query. And in
Oh my
fact,
gosh,
there's probably 7,000 YouTube videos that will tell you very differently how to do it.
yes,
And
yes,
so it's like in itself, just getting your work received is a creative process. And it's like, how do I want to approach this? And like navigating all those complexities, all of that, like different, like where can I afford to be really creative, and where do I need to be very strict about the rules abiding by like the what the publishing office or the agents want to receive, and where do I get to, I feel like I'm sure there are some lone wolves out there that do it completely on their own. I don't know why you'd want to, because this journey is so
yeah.
much more fun with your community,
Oh my gosh.
and they really do keep you going. Like you're saying, you're like, I'll give myself a year to write the book. And like, okay, it took longer than that. I feel like you and I are a little bit like twin flamed in this. I did the same thing. I didn't like quit my job, but I was like, I'm going to write a book in a year. And I'm probably going to have it published in that year because I didn't know what it was
We
like.
don't know. Yeah.
And I'm like, 3 months in, I've got my first draft. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. Writing a book is like, I love it. It's not too hard. And then I start like talking to other authors and realizing, wow, this first draft really sucks. And that's okay. Like that's totally okay. And it's so long.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
it's the
okay
job of
too.
the first draft to suck. It's
Yes.
not supposed to be
Ex
good.
yeah. Like when you've never done it before, you're like, this thing's probably ready to go to print. And everyone's like,
Yeah.
1 second. And you learn as you go, but it's like I had these, I didn't know what to expect, but your community helps inform you. They don't have to dictate. You don't have to like fall in line with what everybody else is doing or what their beliefs are, but like they do really help usher you along in those spots where you're maybe walking a little bit blind. So I love to hear that. I can already tell we're going to go over time, so hopefully you have extra time today. But
Totally.
before we
Like
get
I
into the
said,
actual interview questions, I had a couple of more like just like chit chat questions that I wanted to get through. One of which is, first of all, how do you pronounce your last name?
oh, you said it right. It's Kuliasha.
Okay, I think it would be really cool if I had your last name or if you had my
Okay.
first name, like
Um,
Julia Kuliasha. Like it really rolls off
it
the
was
tongue.
because
Amazing. So if you guys want to adopt me or if she wants to adopt me, I have great
it's gonna
parents,
be
but just for
fun.
the name, like I love it. Also, okay, so right now I'm actually sitting in Joshua Tree. I'm actually out here with my parents for a long weekend.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. I love Joshua
I
Tree.
I'm very lucky. I live in Southern California, and I live right by the beach, which I love every single day. But my happy place when I'm like getting away for, especially for creativity, I love Joshua Tree. There's something about the high desert. There's something about this place that is like so weird and
Yeah.
creative and quiet, but also like loud in its profoundness. And so I come out here all the time and I love it. And so when my parents were coming to
Oh,
visit me, like, we have to
really?
go. But as I was like scrolling through and like trying to get to know a little bit more about you, I saw that you were in Joshua Tree. Like I don't think it was too long ago,
No,
and
it's
you're look you're looking into like cryptids, and you're like, I saw one. I saw my first cryptid. What is this? So I just wanted to ask, like, what was your experience in Joshua Tree like, and also what should I be looking out for when I go
yeah.
hiking later today?
So Joshua Tree, like you said, it's like got this great energy, especially at night. because it's one of those
Mhm.
dark skies parks and
Mm.
all the stars are out and it was so bright even though it's the dead of night. It just felt very mystical when we were there.
Yes.
And then we saw this little creature in one of the cacti that was cat adjacent, like cat size. But I have two cats. It didn't look exactly like a cat. It looked a little bit different.
Like, I know what a cat is. It's not
Yes,
quite that. It's
all the time. I'm like a professional at looking at cats. So
gonna be the soundbite that I use.
I was like, this isn't quite a cat, but it's cat adjacent. So I was looking up the cryptids of Joshua Tree, and the cactus cat is one of them. And
Oh,
this cat
really?
is just a fabulous. It's a cat-like cryptid that goes and drinks fermented cactus juice at night and just has
It's
a
out here
little.
partying?
Yeah, he's a little party cryptid. It's my new favorite cryptid.
I love that. Although, like, I think it is Joshua Tree is also one of those like perfect places to be like on the lookout for like mythical things because again, it has like this like superior like quietness, but also it is layered in just this level of weird. And I mean that in the best possible way of the aliens like obsession and the alien sightings, especially because of the dark sky. So you're seeing stuff all the time. The amount of creativity and just like open-mindedness that lives in this community. And I'm like, if there was ever a place to keep your mind open for seeing something, it's like, yeah, Joshua Tree might be the place where you're like, yeah, that I believe you. That's a weird enough place. Probably some weird stuff's happening there.
There's there are Bigfoot sightings in Joshua Tree too,
No
but it's
way.
a more cactusy looking Bigfoot. I didn't see one, but please let me know if you do.
I will. My parents and I we're going to go drive around and do a couple of like the vistas this afternoon, and then we're going to go back later tonight to do some stargazing in the park. I'm really excited about. So I'm super stoked. Okay, one last question that's like off the cuff chit chat, and then we'll get into questions. I really, this is a half joke, serious question. You've run marathons before, you're training for your next one. I don't know if you know this about me, but I once upon a time ran a half marathon. And I just wanted to ask, like, who hurt you? Why are you doing that?
So the most common question I get about it is actually, is being a masochist a new thing, or have you always been this way? I I actually love running, and
I
I
love
have
that.
let's see, 8 half marathons, one full marathon, and I'm training for a 48.6 mile challenge.
Is that considered an ultra?
If it was all together, it would be. This
Okay.
one is actually at Disney World,
No
and it's a
way.
5K, 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon on back-to-back days. So it is spread out over 4 days
Is
for a
Disney World
total
the
of.
California one?
It's the Florida
The
one.
Florida one.
But
Okay,
I
okay.
did
Gotcha.
run a half marathon in California last year at that Disney. Um,
Really? Oh, wow.
yeah, the Disney races are the most fun at the
Do you dress
exciting
up or
competition.
do a lot of people dress up?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone dresses up. It's like a party. So I ran my first marathon in 2024, and it was like a 26-mile party. It was at Disney World, 26.2 miles of magic. You run through the castle, and when everyone is running up Main Street, USA, everyone, thousands of your new best friends, are having the best moment of their lives
Oh
at the
my
same
God.
time. The vibe is so high, the energy is so good. You run down the main street, you run through the castle, everyone is happy, people are crying. It's amazing. I cannot
I
recommend it enough. You will feel so powerful.
I love that for you. I feel like I could get the same joy out of a 5K and be
That's
like,
great.
wow, I really pushed myself. I really did that hard. Like, I
I
have run long distances, I've trained long distances. There was once upon a time I really did enjoy running. Like, I enjoyed putting my shoes on, I enjoyed the hard part of that first mile, I enjoyed the getting into the groove, like I did. And then something in me was like, do we? Do we like this?
love it.
Like, have you tried to sound bath? Because it's really relaxing. Oh my gosh, speaking of cats.
Do you see a cactus cat?
No, but look at who's joining me. Hi, who are you? This, I don't know where this cat just came from.
Because I'm a professional cat looker.
Hey. Sorry, hold on. I need to pet this little boy. Oh my
Yes,
God,
you
his name is
do.
Buddha Boy. He has a little collar. It says his name is Buddha Boy.
So precious. Buddha boy, I love you.
Thanks for joining us, Buddha Boy. Look how cute he is. He's just like sniffing the little flowers.
Oh, what a good kid.
It must be an outdoor cat. This is probably so I have a cat at home and he's an indoor outdoor cat. I live in like a little gated apartment complex and it started out as like, oh, he can kind of go on the patio and then he won't really go outside the gates. And you know how cats are. He just kept pushing his boundaries. And so now he has got a little GPS
They're gonna
collar so I can tell like where he goes. And I noticed that there's like a couple of apartment complexes where like his heat map shows like he stays there for like 2 hours. And I'm like, do you have another family? Like, what is, yeah. I'm like, so whatever. Look how chill this little dude is. He's just laying
Oh,
down, hanging out. But I feel like this is probably my cat in my community. People are like, I don't know where this cat comes from, but he comes and lays on our porch for like 2 hours every day. Like, okay.
I love it. I love
Um,
cats.
yeah. Okay. So actually, one more kind of, I guess this is maybe, we're leaning into now like interview questions, but I wanted to talk about your book launch for Midnight Pack. I, just a little bit of background. So I'm coming up on the 1 year anniversary of my book launch, and
Yay, congratulations.
thank you. I was very much, I don't know if I got the idea anywhere, if it was just like in my head, it was always going to go that way, that I'm like, I'm having a launch party. Like, and so I had like rented out a venue and I got a photographer and I was going to do a reading and I invited a bunch of people and we opened it up to the community and we got like a bunch of like charcuterie and food spreads. And I was like, that's what I want my book launch to feel like. I want it to feel like a
Yay.
party, a huge celebration. And I look at a lot of people's book launches. And also I should acknowledge like I'm very fortunate enough that like I have a well-paying career, so I could afford to pay for that myself, right? Like my I know not everybody has that luxury, but I do see a lot of people for their book launches. They might do like online events or they work with their local bookstore to do a signing and a reading, which is amazing. They maybe they have like a little mini book tour that first week or something. And so there's so many different ways that you can approach that celebration of it,
Yes,
especially for
100%.
a debut. And I was just really curious about like how did you come up with the idea for your book launch party? Was it like it was just in your heart the whole time? Was it a suggestion? Were you inspired by something?
Oh, what a great question. So I knew I wanted to have a party because you work so hard on your book and you work so long on your book and then it's real and it's out there in the world and you can see it and you can touch it. I have one right here. But it's cool, right? It's so cool. And then I found like my friends were so supportive and they were so excited too and they wanted to celebrate with me also. And then my local indie bookstore, Briggs Street Books
Mhm.
in Erie, Colorado, they're just so kind and so nice and so wonderful. And they offered to host it. And they brought in drinks and they brought in snacks and they had these custom cookies made with like hand painted wolves on them. And they did all of
That's
that. And it was
amazing.
so incredible. I love them so much. It's the best store. And they're the kindest people. Then I had also found a local businesswoman who has a candle company where you go in and you mix your own candles and you mix your own scents. And I had
Hmm.
gone in there because scent plays a really big role in my books, especially with the werewolves. And scent is a big deal. So I asked if she would be interested in coming too and maybe setting up like a little pop up there. And she did come. And so people could mix their own scents. And we had little scent recipes inspired by my book. And it was like a party. We just hung out and we chatted and we mixed scents and we had a great time.
I'm okay, actually I want to ask. So I can see how you how the scents and the candles worked out. How did you make that relationship with that bookstore? Like okay, so here's what I'm thinking. A lot of times we're told, especially as authors, like in this day and age, right? Like marketing is left up to you quite a bit, even if you're well represented. And I think a lot of people do I'll send an email, maybe I won't hear back, or I'll go into the store once and I'll ask to speak to a manager. And if they blow me off, okay, that's the end of story. If they hear me out, whatever, okay, like we'll see. I find that making connections, it can be really easy, but also sometimes it takes a bit of effort. And so I'm imagining like that bookstore they went above and beyond and seemed to really care about your book launch. And I'm curious, how did you approach creating that relationship? Like, did it happen naturally? Was it something you already had? Or is it something that you put some like concerted effort into creating?
Oh, this is a great question. This one just feels like it happened really naturally. I reached out to them, the store owners, and it's this wonderful couple. And they emailed me right back, and we started chatting about what a book launch party could be. And their store had just opened maybe like 2 months before
Oh,
my party was going to be. So they're this new store, and I'm this new author, and I wanted to like send my focus there with with my friends and really support. And we got to do that together. And it worked out
Amazing.
so well. And I just love this little bookstore so much. I actually have a short story that I wrote that's going to be in a book box that's upcoming this December. It's the Once Upon a Book Club book box.
Oh
Their Christmas or their holiday Advent box.
man.
There are 12 stories
That's
in the
really
full
cool. A
anthology. It's
holiday
really,
advent like short story book box. That's
yes.
really cool.
And you read a story for each day and you get a gift with that story that has to do with that story. When I was
Wow.
fortunate enough to be in it last year, and then I'm going to be in it again this year. And my story this year is about a little independent bookstore, and it was inspired by this one,
Them.
my local one. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing. I love that. There's there are there are sometimes interactions and connections like that that happen so easily, so effortlessly. It does feel like kismet, right? Like there was one time I walked across the street to one of the local coffee shops in my community. I had never been there before, but I was just like, oh, good day. And then as I was walking up, I realized that their outdoor patio had been turned into like a women's market. So it was like a bunch of like
cool.
female-led like small businesses and like jewelry makers, candle makers. And I was like, oh, how cool. And one of them was a vintage shop. And so she had brought like a couple of like hand curated samples from her vintage shop to sell there. And she had this like old wooden bookshelf display. And on the end of it was a hand carved, hand painted like desert motif with a sun. And like my book it's called Swimming with the Sun, takes place in the desert. And I was
Oh,
like, I need that for all of my book tables, right? So I have a great conversation with her. I go into the coffee shop to grab my coffee and I'm carrying it. And someone behind me, hey, what is that? Like, what is that thing that you're carrying? I'm like, oh, it's a bookshelf. Here's what I'm going to use it for. It like matches my book. As I'm doing this, I like move up to the counter and the barista overhears me and is like, you're a local author? And like, when's your book coming out? And so I told them and they were like, you have to come back. You have to have an event here. We have to stock your book.
I
And I'm
love
like, this
it.
literally happened on a whim of like, I'm just gonna go to this new coffee shop and one thing led to another. And so like sometimes those things like are just like so natural.
It just falls into place.
However, I will say I think there's also something about like how many times before that had I practiced talking about my book because I was trying to make connections with bookstores or I was trying to make connections with like Barnes and Noble's managers or so like I think there's like this kind of wonderful balance of like sometimes the universe just aligns for you and it's golden. Sometimes that is the result of you being prepared and open to the
Yeah.
opportunities that show up in front of you. And I think that's like a really
100%.
beautiful thing. Yeah. So thinking about, so Midnight Pack came out in June, is that right?
Not in May. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So one of is it going to be a three-book series? I know you said you have a three-book deal, so is it going to be a trilogy? Okay,
In its current form, but
okay.
that's up to the readers, right? If a lot
Yes.
of people get it, perhaps more will come.
So I think that's such an interesting kind of like intersection to be at is like you've written your first book. It seems to be pretty successful, pretty well received. You've got opportunities to write the second and third, possibly more depending on engagement. So the question I had written, and I would like to actually ask, like, so if your creative season, like right now, had like a landscape to it, what would it look like? And maybe I would also ask, like, and how does that contrast to what your creative season looked like when you first started Midnight Pack? Like, does it feel wildly different?
It does actually, and I love this question. So my creative season, I'm going to rewind a little bit. I get most of my story ideas and I think through scenes as I'm running. And I'm
Mhm.
on these long runs and I don't listen to music. I actually just think about my story ideas. And
You
so
really are
I'm in it.
wild. You're just out there raw running. Like,
Yes,
amazing.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
So when I think about this, like my creative landscape is just an open road and there are so many possibilities. Anything is possible. And I have to run the road to find what those possibilities are.
Hmm.
And I even find like if I'm stuck on an idea or something, I'm like, it'll come to me in my next run. It'll be fine. And it is. I just go
Oh,
out
wow.
there.
I love that.
When I first, thank you. When I first started writing it, the Midnight Pack, it was actually more like being in the woods, and the story
Mm.
takes place in the woods. But it was, wow, I don't know what there is. I don't know what this landscape is. There could be anything behind this tree. Like,
Yes.
And it was still
It's
a lot of
dense.
unknowns, but it was more like
Yeah.
surrounded by unknown. And now I get how the process goes. So it's this big open road where there's just endless possibility.
Yes. So you've got like a clear view of like what's immediately in front of you, but you're still like, I don't really know where I'm going yet. Who
Yeah.
knows? I'm still just enjoying the run.
Yep. And I enjoy the process. It's like running and writing are very similar to me. And I know that running distances helped make me a better writer because you have to get in this mindset of perseverance. Can you still see me, by the way? It says low network bandwidth.
Yeah, it just glitched for just 1 second. Okay, I think it's back because now I can
Okay.
hear and see you fine again.
Oh, perfect. So, yeah, definitely running has made me a better writer because these long distances, you just have to really dig in to your own perseverance. And there might be some times that you don't think you can make it. Maybe like I didn't know if I could finish a marathon when I was running my marathon. When I ran my marathon, that was the first time I'd run that distance. Because when you're training, you
Mm-hmm.
don't run the full distance.
Yep.
So I didn't actually know if I could
Where
finish.
did you stop
And
ahead
then
of
I
your
did.
marathon? Because like some people stop at like 22 miles and they're like, oh, I can tack 4 onto it. Some people go like right up to like, I'll do 25 so that I know, but I
And then
don't know about that
you
last
know,
mile. Yeah.
I was tired when I was
Yeah.
training. So I stopped at 20 miles. And I
Okay.
was like,
Wow.
the last, it's like a 10K. I could run a 10K.
Yep.
But that last, after running 20 miles, the
You're
last
like,
6 miles
can I
was
run a
hard.
10K after running
That's the trick question.
3.5 10Ks already?
So, but then I did it and it like proved to me that I could do something that I thought might be impossible, but then I did it anyway.
Mhm.
So, writing, like finding the stories like that, like just perseverance. I'm going to find these pieces and I
Yeah.
know I can do it because I've done all these other things that I didn't think that I could do. And then I did them anyway.
You do. I love that. Maybe there's like a little bit of like a comparison there of like with running, right? Like it is, I've heard this from several runners. Like it really is mindset, right? Mind over matter, perseverance, attitude, overcoming your physical, like one, like you have to overcome like your mental limitations of telling yourself you can't do it. But also even when your feet do get tired, even when you're like you're out of breath or you're just feeling very fatigued or you overcome some of like that physical exhaustion by just like mentally keep going. And I wonder if like with writing, not that a long writing session doesn't take it out of you physically if you write like I do all like hunched over, but like I wonder if like that mental persistence is used in the same capacity, but to overcome maybe some like emotional limitations of like, or like even just like, oh, at the end of a long work day, like I still need to sit down at my laptop, but like I don't want to, but I
Yes.
know that this will make me happier in the long run. Or
Yes.
like I don't want to get up early tomorrow and right before I have to go to that wedding or whatever, but like I know it's gonna make me happier and more proud of myself and I'll keep like chipping away at it. So that persistence is like maybe not over the physical, but it is definitely like persistence over like that emotional and mental barrier of
100%.
like
Yes.
every single day showing up, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
maybe not
And
every
then
day.
showing yourself that you can do that because sometimes it sounds hard because it is hard. But
Yeah.
then when you know that you can do it, it opens up everything a little bit more for you. There's
Yeah.
actually a book that I pulled out. It's my very favorite running book. It's Let Your Mind
Oh.
Run, and it's about overcoming all of these kind of the mental things that you're talking about. I fully credit this book with getting me through my marathon, and I'm going
Wow.
to do a reread before my 48.6 miles. So, highly recommend.
Amazing. Oh, that's really cool. And I love that like you're reading a book about like there's just like double layers there of like you're reading a book about how to use your mind to keep going in the run. Like also that runner wrote that book. So she's gone through not just the run you're doing, but also that book writing exercise
Yes,
that you're doing.
I really liked this question. So, I pulled out this other book that I have. It's what I talk about when I talk about running, and it's by Haruki Murakami. I really love this author. I don't know if you've read any of his other books, but he even has a chapter called Most of What I Know About Writing I Learned by Running Every Day.
That's
They're
amazing.
like
Yeah, they're
twined together
connected.
to
Yeah.
me.
I'm just pausing real quick because this is actually really nice that I'm talking to you with a recording. So I think I've told you like this is going to be the first interview that I'm actually going to edit before I post. which I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but like there's going to be probably one post with like the majority of our conversation. And then I think one kind of awesome perk of that is I can also post smaller excerpts
Yeah,
of it so that it will
yeah,
actually get a little bit more engagement because the lives, they're fun live, but then they just die in on the shelf.
yeah.
And I would
Yes,
like to get some of these conversations out there more. Anyways, I say this because I think we're going to have a lot of like good content, but because we're editing, we have the perk of being able to like start and stop. And I'm noticing that because of my Zoom license is free, we only have about 5 minutes left here. So are you okay to go over if we run out of time, we can just like shut this call and open another
100%.
one? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My next thing, so I'm going with my family to Boo at the zoo tonight, and it's
Oh my
perfect.
gosh.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
and take her trick or treating at the zoo with me. So
Amazing. Okay, so perfect. So we have about like 5 minutes left here. So I'm going to ask you maybe one more interview question, then we'll like hang up and start a new call so that we can keep going. But actually, great segue into I wanted to talk a little bit about the Midnight Attack specifically. I think maybe I want to talk a little bit about one, how, let's start with one. How did that story idea arrive to you? Like, was it something that you had like collected little bits and pieces of throughout the years of things you were passionate about? Did it come to you in a dream? Was it inspired by a scene? Did you not know what you were going to write when you set out to write? How did that story come to you? Maybe just tell us a little bit about the Midnight Pack, what it is.
awesome. So I love this question because it came to me a little bit from all of the things you just mentioned. You have such good questions. So Midnight Pack, I describe it as a Beauty and the Beast meets supernatural urban fantasy.
That's it's amazing comps. I love that.
So just imagine if Belle had Dean Winchester's job and she was hunting a werewolf instead of the beast. Um, and thank you. So I got to combine these like just concepts that I love. It was so fun to write. But as for where the idea came from, I grew up watching, I loved Mission Impossible and I loved James Bond. And I grew up watching those. And there's this guy that goes and does all the cool things and he's super cool always and he gets all the girlfriends and it's a different
Uh-huh.
girlfriend in
He
every
gets all the
movie.
cool moments, the last
Oh,
line. Yeah.
yes, yes, always. And I was like, that's cool. I don't want I want to be him and I want to see a girl doing those things. So I
Yeah.
always had this idea of like, why isn't the girl doing it? Why isn't the girl the main character and she's getting all the boyfriends? And
Yes.
she gets the last line and she has the funny things that she says. Like, why not? So I always had this idea that I wanted this female character that would do all these things that the guys were doing in these movies
Hmm.
that I watched growing up. So that was where Jericho James had been percolating over the years. And then I actually had a really scary nightmare about one of the more intense scenes in this book. And there's a scene where Jericho is in this house, but and she hears these voices and they're
Hmm.
yelling and somebody wants to kill her.
Yeah.
And in my dream it was me and I'm in this house and there was these angry people and they were yelling and I just knew like I had to run for my life and I felt this in
Deep
my core.
fear.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I woke up and I was like, that was really scary. How am I going to get over this? I'm going to write it down and then like write the ending to it so I know it wasn't actually scary. And then I was like, who is that in the house? Oh, it's this girl that I've been thinking about in my mind the whole
Hmm.
time. Like it's going to be Jericho James. And how did she get there? And who are these people? And why? And so all
Yeah.
the questions just wove together after that.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about like just your craft and process. So like the idea comes to you, it continues coming to you throughout like the development. But when you're actually doing your writing, like I will say from online and from this conversation so far, you seem to be a very like an incredibly playful person, very like light and fun. Do you feel that way when you're writing, or does it become more of a serious exercise? Does it like depend on the day? What does your process look and feel like to you emotionally?
I love this question. So
Mhm.
it is very playful. And sometimes, so for example, I finished writing book two of Midnight Pack. So book two is going to be about Bigfoot and it's called Foot Confidential. It's currently in the hands of my editor. And I had so much fun writing it, maybe too much fun writing it. I was
Yeah.
just like giggling as I'm writing things, and it's spicy. I'm
I
here
love
for
that
it.
because like also don't you feel like when you read a good book, you can tell like, oh, the author really truly emotionally cared about these characters if it's like a deep
Yeah.
emotional story, or if it is like a fun, playful, like quippy kind of thing, you're like, oh, I can tell that they had fun, right? They were goofing
Yes,
around when they wrote this and they picked the best of those. And like
exactly.
it makes it so much more enjoyable as a reader because I think that experience that the author's having comes through. That's
Oh
so
yeah,
much fun.
100%. It's like when you watch a movie and you can tell that the actors were really having fun with the role, or if they're just reading their lines.
Yeah, you're like, is it chemistry? Is it, or is it like, is it acting, right? And it's like if they're
Exactly.
actually like getting close as a cast and they're becoming friends and yeah,
Yeah, I
I
feel like
love
you can
that.
tell. So I definitely hope it comes through when my next book comes out, that it was probably the most fun writing because
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just went for it.
Yeah. So, sorry, just to be clear. So for Bigfoot Confidential, have you announced that title yet?
I have, yes.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to make sure because I was like, actually, I don't remember seeing that on your page, but I might have missed it. Okay. So
Oh,
that's been
it's
announced.
like probably down in archives.
Okay. So this is going to be like a trilogy. I'm curious about the series. Is it the same main characters and then, different cryptids, or do you change cast? It's the same. Okay.
The same, yeah, yes. I just love Jericho so much. She's gonna just having her adventures. She's living her James Bond lifestyle.
So I apologize. I typically try to read the books of the people I'm interviewing before I interview them, or at least part of them. I haven't gotten to read your book yet. I am very excited too, but that's just
Perfect for the
busy
season.
lives. Yeah, it will be a really great read for like the last like week or two of October. I'm very excited about that. But I'm curious, so because I haven't read, I don't know all the details about like the setting and the world that these characters find themselves in, other than what you've shared online. Do the sequels take place in like actually different physical spaces and landscapes, or is it like, hey, in this small town, we've got all the cryptids that
Oh,
ever
what a good
walked the
question.
earth?
Yeah, so I'm gonna rewind a tiny bit and talk about urban fantasy just in general, because it
Okay.
all takes place under the urban fantasy genre, which is my favorite genre because I love this idea that so urban fantasy is like it's the real world, but then something fantastical is happening in it.
Yeah.
And I love that
Is
idea.
that
I love,
so you said supernatural before as like a TV comp? Is that also like, would you say urban fantasy is also, have you ever seen
yeah,
Once Upon a Time where it's like, oh,
yes.
there's like real world, like Boston or New York or wherever they live, and then it's like, oh, but then they have this like separated, but it's like real
I feel like
world,
Once Upon a Time is maybe more like a portal fantasy
a
because
portal. Okay.
we go
So this is
from the
like,
real
it's not
world.
going to be separated. It is like existing
Yeah,
in current urban. Okay.
exactly. And I love that thought. I love the thought that you could be walking down the street and maybe that guy that you just saw rounding the corner is secretly a werewolf. We don't know. Just that there's like the world that you see, and then maybe there's something going on underneath that none of us know about except the people who do
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I just love that idea that there's something more.
Yeah.
So I love urban fantasy as a genre because you get to play with that.
Yeah.
So
Oh, so
in this,
actually, sorry, I'm trying to understand because sometimes genres like escape me a little bit. So I'm trying to like put my little pins in the ground. So urban fantasy, would we consider Twilight an urban fantasy? Like there's a normal school in a normal small town, but
but
like
vampires just
there's
happen to also.
vampires. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. So
Okay, okay,
Twilight's
okay,
urban
gotcha.
fantasy. Probably my first introduction to urban fantasy was the Dresden Files series, if you've
Hmm.
ever read that.
No, I
Um,
haven't.
I love that series. And that's another one where this guy is the main character and he's so cool and he's doing these cool things. And I was like, I want to see this, but again, with a girl as the main character.
Hmm.
But yes, like Twilight, it's the
Okay.
real world, real things are happening, but then there's also the vampire, there's also the werewolf.
Yeah.
So that's the world of
Okay. So now that I
Jericho.
understand urban fantasy,
Yes.
where are
So
your characters? Where are they
she's
living? What's their
in
setting?
this trilogy. She's in the States. She's in America, and she's a Florida girl. She's from Orlando, and
Okay.
this case that she's on takes her up to Maine. So she's in a small town in Maine, and these strange things have been happening in the woods around the small town. And so she goes to investigate, thinking fully it'll be just nothing.
Nonsense.
It's
Yeah.
like most of her cases are nonsense. Yeah, she
Hmm.
says she feels like she's living in a Scooby Doo cartoon all the time. But when all signs point to werewolves, she becomes a believer in this book.
Yep.
Let's just say. And then in book too, Bigfoot Confidential, she has a case in another state. She goes to Washington State, and the one, the case in this book was one that I made up, but the
Mm.
one in Washington State is actually based on a real case that really
Like a real
happened in the
sighting, like investigation?
real, yes, and that's all I can say right now. But
I was gonna say, so
Bigfoot,
like I don't know that I've heard any like stereotypes about Maine and werewolves, but when you think about Bigfoot, you do think like, oh, he's in the Pacific Northwest, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Like,
So
he might
most
be he's in the
Bigfoot
Rockies
sightings
on
are
one
here.
side or the other.
There are actually, fun Bigfoot fact, there are Bigfoot sightings in every single state except for Hawaii, but most of the sightings happen around Mount Rainier in Washington. And then, but you're right about
Yeah.
that you don't like automatically think Maine and werewolves.
Mhm.
But a really fun fact about Maine is that it is the only state that's 90% forest, which is
Wow.
huge. 90% of Maine is forested. So what is living in those woods? It could be anything. But there's
You know
also,
what? I sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
cut
go
you off, but
ahead.
I love to hear that because like when you think of Maine, you think of I
Coast,
guess like I
right?
think of like vacationing up in the like maybe in the summering up there or something. I grew up in
Lobsters.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
lobsters, yep.
I'm
So
from Michigan. Where in Michigan? Where on the hand did you grow
uh
up?
so if I hold on, let me get my Michigan correct over here. So east side, like north of
Okay, just like
Detroit, like Pontiac suburbs, and then I
yeah.
went to school in Western and Kalamazoo. So I grew up in Michigan, but like one of the things that you learn in like
Amazing.
early like primary school in Michigan is like Michigan used to be such a dense forested land that a squirrel, this is I don't know that this is factually true, but you hear it from every legitimate authority teacher you've ever had. A squirrel could actually get from like the border of Michigan all the way up to the UP, which is like the Upper Peninsula, without touching the ground because the tree coverage was so dense. And like at some point
Oh
they
my
started clear
gosh, that's
cutting it and
amazing.
sold the lumber, but like still the northern half of Michigan, and especially the UP, is like extremely forested. But that image has never like really left my mind of like, can you imagine like a whole state that is basically an entire forest? It's like if there's no trails, it's just the woods growing wild for that much space. And now I'm like, oh, so Maine is that.
Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
It's a great story about the squirrel.
It's just
Uh,
it's a very evocative image. Like that's a
yeah,
long way for a squirrel, but I guess you could go.
yeah, and the fact that it could do that.
Yeah.
I was also researching cryptids in Maine to see what else is around there, and there are Bigfoot sightings there as well. But there's this story that really stuck with me, and it's about dogmen, and
Hmm.
dogmen are werewolf adjacent. And it's there was a dogman sighting in this tiny town in Maine, and I mention it in the Midnight Pack. I try to pull in real sightings whenever I can because I think it's more fun that way. But this family heard a noise outside their house and they looked out and there were these what looked like wolves, but one of them like stood up on its hind legs. They tried to get into the house. They're scratching at the door. They managed to get onto the balcony on the second floor. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. I watched an interview about this.
So
It's
sorry, what size are these?
like the
They're like
size of like an adult man, but they're these wolf creatures, these dog men. And it's
sorry,
if you look
what do they look like? Sorry, I got lost a little bit. Are they like they are men that turn into dogs and dogs that turn back into men? Or it's like their creature themselves is like a hybrid, like the way like a centaur is
they're
like a hybrid or something.
yes, but they're
But it's not like
100%
half and half.
wolf
It's like,
appearance. Yeah. It's
oh, okay,
all
okay,
wolf
okay.
looking. They can stand up on their hind two legs like a
Hmm.
man. So they're werewolf adjacent in my
Okay.
mind. So if you look up the dogman of Palmyra in Maine, there's this crazy story and it's so creepy. So I figured it wasn't that far of a leap to have werewolves be living in the woods.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I so I don't read a lot of like mythical fantasy, but a lot of people around me do. Like obviously it's one of the biggest genres. And I do feel like werewolves and vampires have a really interesting way of pulling people in. I don't know if it's like the masculinity behind like a werewolf or something where it's like men are feral and we're like, but it's allowed because it's like, oh, now it's in their nature and like there's that like maybe a redeeming factor of they're trying to fight against their nature that we're like also just like in a fiction environment, like drawn to that as like it's exemplifying a moral character of like fighting your worst impulses and having self-restraint.
Yes, and
Um,
that is a theme in this book, actually.
okay.
So,
I was talking to my, sorry, this is not really interview material, but I was talking to my mom earlier and she generally reads like very contemporary fiction, maybe mysteries, romance, like just contemporary novels. But recently she's been getting into like the KU universe, right? Like, so Kindle Unlimited has a lot of fantasy and like spicy fantasy now.
oh
And
yeah,
she was just telling me
100%.
about this book that is, I don't know what it's called, but it's got like this werewolf named Kane, but he's like a dog band wolf and but he was a wolf and then he gets bitten by a soldier and so that turns him into a human. So the opposite of rather being a
Oh, I
human
love
getting
it.
bitten and turning into a wolf. And so like but he can turn back into these different dogs and like instead of always just being able to turn back into like a wolf, he can turn into like a pug or like a terrier or like a
I love
greyhound or something. And it's like the comedy of like a wolf becoming a human personality. So he's like maybe a little bit simple. And then he's like, I'm a greyhound, I'm really fast. Or he's like, I'm a pug. And he's like, help, I can't breathe, pick me up.
That's
Like, I
really
don't know.
funny.
But so I was just, it was getting me to think because my mom was telling me this like whole story in detail. And I was just like, God, there's so much fun to be had with some of these creatures. And even though we're like, we've
Oh my
heard every single werewolf story, we've heard every single vampire story. It's like, we haven't. There's so much fun and creativity around some of these mythics that is still left to explore. So I love seeing people still explore them. So I'm like, I would have never thought of that idea of like a reverse werewolf.
yeah. Oh
Like,
my gosh, I love it.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
in mine, they're standard werewolves, but there is a little twist to it that I hope people enjoy and I think was a
Oh,
little different.
I love that. So, okay, sorry, the before I got into all of that rant, I was thinking about like I think that there is like a predominant like through line of like why we are interested in vampires or werewolves is because like they are intended to be seen as predatory and then the characters who embody them are withholding like their worst impulses they're fighting against they're trying to become like better more controlled people for the good of the people around them. Is there any such stereotype about a Bigfoot where it's like, oh, Bigfoots are meant to be lonely solo creatures, and so they're fighting against their desire to be isolated and trying to become into a community? Or is like, do you know what I mean? Like, is there something about the lore of a Bigfoot that actually comes through as a theme when you're writing your second novel?
So the part that I really drew on for Bigfoot is that they're all environmentalists because they
Oh, okay. I love
live
that.
on it. And I don't think I can say really too much more about it since it's still
Yeah.
in the editing
Yeah.
phase. But I'm really excited to show people my take on Bigfoot.
I love that. You do hear that a lot, that the Bigfoot are like, it's basically the soul of someone who's like, I'm gonna leave all worldly things behind and go live one at
Yeah,
peace with the natural world. Uh,
exactly.
So the next kind of like set of questions that I wanted to ask you about is more about your writing career. So your publishing journey, where you are now, and especially I'm really interested in the way that authors market themselves and the way that they specifically market themselves online. So this is the first time that we've talked. I will say, like, my impression is you in real life, very aligned with the image and brand you have created online, right?
Your impression
Um,
would be good.
and it's not surprising because your author brand and like your Instagram pages and your posts they're very alive, they're very bright, they're very like magnetic and energetic. I think those are qualities that are hard to fake. I know I will say, like, I think my author brand, like 4 years ago, probably started out closer to that, like very energetic, bright. Maybe I'm a little bit more like bubbly or a little like silly. And when I was in that place in my life, it was so easy to post content like that and show up like that because that's where I was. And when like I suffer with anxiety and depression, so like when I was not in that place where that energy didn't come naturally to me, it became extremely difficult, almost excruciating to try to show up the same way online. And eventually I just gave in and was like, I don't have to show up the same way at different parts of my life, right? But so I am curious when I see someone like you who has like a very similar brand, like is that something that emerged naturally and that you think like ebbs and flows with just like where you are in life? Was it a conscious choice to show up with that energy? Is it something that you put, obviously you put effort into it, but like, is it something you put effort into keeping a really stable brand, or are you, I am where I am, I'll show up how I show up?
What a great question. I love that you asked it in this way too, because it's like, yeah, like how do you do that, right? I think when I look at the authors that I really enjoy, like their Instagram pages or their online presence, it's because they feel very authentic to me.
Hmm.
So I knew I just want to be authentic. But at the same time, like just gratitude is something that's always really important to me. Like if I am, sometimes we all have bad days, right? Like so
Yeah.
sometimes it's harder to find that gratitude, but I make it a point to do it like for myself.
Hmm.
So every Friday I try to do it every Friday. I have a little Friday five post where I talk about five things that were just making me happy during the week, and I encourage other people to do the same. I think that really helps you realize like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, these it was actually a really good week. I had these five really
Hmm.
cool things. I had ice cream today. It was delicious, amazing. That's going on my list. So I try to make a point to think of those things.
I love the regular practice of that too, because like one, at the end of the week, yeah, if you've got five things, it's probably really like grounding to be like, it's actually pretty easy to find five things every week that I'm grateful for. But let's say you have a week where you're like, actually, I'm at a loss. This week was just the worst, and I can't find that. Okay, that sucks. But if you can look over, if you've had that as a habit or a ritual or a routine of posting, and you're like, you know what? The last 30 weeks, it was easy to find five things I was grateful for. And this week, it's really hard, but that's one of 30 weeks. And so, like, that's okay. Like,
Yes.
that like context of like the grander scope of things, I think can sometimes help you feel like even when like you truly are having a hard time, it can say like, this isn't permanent. This isn't the way things have always been. It stops you from like, it helps you not catastrophize and say like, yeah, maybe this
Exactly.
week, you know what, maybe I'm
Yeah,
just not feeling it. But I love
exactly.
that routine and that ritual. And I think yeah, it's very powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back to running for just a second because I also love running. It's like when you sometimes you're just really not feeling the run either. And I used to beat myself up like internally, like if I missed something, like, oh, you missed it, like you ruined your training plan. But you know, what's one run in the grand scope of things? And there's a quote that I really love, and I think about this all the time. You're only behind if you quit. It doesn't matter if you miss one run. You're only behind if you quit. It doesn't matter if you can't like figure out your storyline if you don't have that thread as you're writing. You're only behind if you quit. It doesn't matter if you keep getting no's when you're sitting in your query. You keep trying because you're only behind if you quit. So I
That is
think that that
so
mentality is
powerful
really
because it's like we set all of these expectations for ourselves, whether it's like a running plan of like, I have to hit these four long distances this week and I need to do like two hits and I need to take one rest day, or like if it's writing and you're like, I need to get these three chapters edited on Friday, and then I need to like respond to some of those other comments in the earlier section. And I still need to do whatever. Like you can pin yourself into a box of constant feeling behind. Constant,
and
like,
it's
I
easy.
was
It's
supposed to get
easy
that
to
done
go in
last
that
week. I was supposed to get
direction.
that done last month. I should have already
Mhm.
been here by now. But like, there is, okay, I guess I'm not a traditionally published author, so I don't have an agency or a publishing house going like, your book is due on this date. So I guess technically, if you have like a due date with someone you've made like a contract with, you could possibly be running behind on schedule. But for the most part, when it comes to the creative process, like you really can't be. You are getting you're getting to where you're going as far and as fast as you can, the way that it's meant to be. Like, so again, like as long as you don't stop, every single step is progress.
Yeah,
Like it's,
you're
you're
only
just getting
behind if you
closer to
quit.
where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
I love that.
100%.
So how does that show up like in your online persona of like, okay, so you're grateful every Friday. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. Actually, hold on. Let me switch gears a little bit on this. I feel like we've answered that a little bit, but there was another maybe angle that I was looking at your social media on, which is that you do two things that I think sometimes people think are diametrically opposed, and you do them together very well, which is You are marketing yourself as an author, creating connections with writers, and you do a very good job at selling and marketing your work and connecting to readers. And I don't know about you, but I have been told by several marketing gurus in my scroll, like, you have to pick one lane and stay in it. You need to have a book account for your book. You should probably actually have 3 TikTok accounts just for your book of different things. And then you can have one writing account, but like that's just for you and it's just for authors. And don't try to sell your book there because that's not. And so, like, at least in my like couple of years in the author community online, it's been told to me in several different ways, like, you can't create an author community and sell books in the same place. And I never really bought into that. I was like, too bad, because my author community is so incredibly important to my success, in that the book wouldn't exist if I didn't have them. Like, I'm not gonna stop doing that, but I also don't want to cut those things in half. They're both part of my author journey. I'm curious if you've ever felt pressure to separate the two, or if it is it difficult to balance? Do you find, like, again, it's just like, hey, if you're being authentic, it is what it is. Like, how do you approach that?
That's a great question too. And I have heard the same thing, right? And I've also heard like that your account should be, you should pick like you're only going to use one font and carry that through, and only
Yes.
one colorway and carry that through. And I just
Yeah.
like colors and I like a lot of fonts. So,
You have
um,
some of the wildest like diversity of content. Like, one was like, you did like a Taylor Swift, like, I'm a showgirl, like, I'm a book girl. And then it was like Pedro Pascal with things in his mouth related to
yeah,
books and book memes. And then it was like, also here's like a really thoughtful reflection of like how I ended up on this author journey. And I'm like, that's a real human, because I also think all of those things probably within a day. Like,
yes,
so
yes,
having not a consistent brand is actually making it be like, oh, that's Jasmine's brand, because that's just, yeah. Anyways.
yeah, yes. No, that's exactly, I feel like I'm just going to show up authentically. And that is, I am all over the place. I love Pedro Pascal. I love cats. I love my books. I love reading other people's books. I'm an author, but I'm also a reader. So
Yeah.
because I am all of those things, I just present all of those things. And I always feel like, so like when I was younger, I felt like, oh, I should wear the cool things or the trendy things, or like be
Mm-hmm.
trendy, or like try to fit or try to conform. And then at some point I realized that that's not how you find your people. You find your people by being your authentically weird self, and then the other
Hmm.
people that are like that will find you. I'll wear my TARDIS dress and attract the other people who like Doctor Who. They come to me. So
That's There's such a like important distinction there. Is like, if you want to blend in, fit in, and conform, you will find some people. You will. You'll find some people. They will not be your people because they
yeah,
don't know you. Like, and like, if you, what's the point of having people if they don't know you, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
and you know what? I've found so many amazing friends from Bookstagram, our little fun book corner of Instagram, and there's so many wonderful friendships that I've made. In fact, I just got back from Seattle where I was the conversation partner for another author who's so wonderful, and I met her on Instagram because I was really interested in her book, because I'm a
Yeah.
reader, like I'm an author and a reader. So I love having this dichotomy in the same space because you get to make these really cool connections.
Who was the author? I'm actually wondering if I
Her
know who it
name's
was.
Kay Valentin, and
Okay.
she wrote this book that just came out, and I have my copy right here. It's an amateur witch's guide to
Oh
murder.
yes, I saw you post about this. Amazing.
It
Oh,
is
so
such
cool.
a delight. It's such a delight of a book. And as soon as I found these posts, I just knew I wanted to read it immediately. And so I was so flattered when she asked me to be her conversation partner. And we had such a good time in Seattle. So I just, I think you just show up as who you are, and
Yeah.
you meet your people.
I I it's hard to explain, I think, to people who don't have like an online community, but very literally, most of the best friends I have in my life, most of the people I am texting, talking on the phone to, going on vacation with, traveling to see, are author friends I have met on Instagram within the last 5 years, that have gone from an account I follow to like one of my closest confidants, still one of the people I would say like I love most in the world. And like it is, I think obviously it's becoming more and more common for people to have online communities, but if you're not in one, I think it can be hard to understand like how do you make a connection with people you don't, and it's like I don't know if there's something in the water and authorgram community, and if it is, like keep it there. But like it has been such a wonderful journey to find so many amazing people. Yeah, I this community is something really special. So anyways,
I
I'm glad that you've
agree.
had that experience too.
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I have friends that I talk to every day
Yeah,
on Instagram, and just everyone is
yeah.
so supportive. And that's what I really want, like my space to be, is just supportive.
Mm.
Here with this book published without the kind words of a stranger, right? Who is like, keep going. So I want to be
Yeah,
that person to other
yeah,
people too. I want, if you come onto
yeah.
my little corner of the internet, I hope that it makes you happy.
I I've used the metaphor a couple of times in conversations with other authors of like I think of like people's Instagram pages as like their houses of like do when I come over to your house, like do I feel like you want me there? Do I feel like I belong? Do I feel comfortable? Like am I helping myself to a glass of water and a snack from your cupboards, or am I like everything is so perfect here? Is it would it be maybe okay if like is this the fancy silverware or can I use this fork? Like and I do feel like one of the most wonderful things is like when you stumble upon someone and you're like, oh, this does feel like home. Like because they're
Yeah.
being authentic and you're like, yeah, take a look around. It is what it is. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But like okay, one more question before we get into some closing. I especially with the running and the book writing, I can tell that you are sometimes this word has a bad connotation to it, but I love it. I can tell that you seem to be an ambitious person. And what I mean by that is that you have goals, you have dreams. I think people have very different approaches to goals and dreams. Some people are very prescribed in the way that they approach the life that they want and the things they want to achieve. Other people are just very like open and just like willing to see what comes next. I'm curious, what does success for future you look like? And how detailed do you get in that? Are you someone who has like, I know where I want to be in 3 years, or are you like, I have a feeling of what success looks like?
I love this question too. You are so good. You have all the good questions. So I think about so I have two kids,
Mm,
and I think I think about them all the time, of course. When I think about what success to me for them means, and it's that I want them to be happy. Like if they are happy in life, then I know that I succeeded as a parent and I know that they're succeeding and I can feel good about it. So I take that back to myself. Like what is success for me is that I'm doing something that I'm really happy. And that's writing these books. Writing my little books makes me so
yeah.
happy. And just anytime anyone reads it, I'm just so thankful. And if people spend the time to like even think about words that I wrote or take the time to write a review, regardless of what they thought about it, just the time they're spending that time thinking about some my little book
Yes.
that I wrote. I'm so flattered every
Actually
time.
romantic. How's that kiss?
Thank you. That's my new favorite album, by the way.
So
But
good.
yeah, so I just is being happy and like continuing to be able to do this thing that just brings
Mhm.
me so much joy. And I hope that I am able to bring other people joy when they read what I wrote.
Yeah. I really love that because it's also one, I didn't know that you're a mother. I'm sorry if I missed that, but I do think it is very maybe not easy, but it seems to be like it would follow logic where you're like, what does success look like for my children? I just want them to be happy. I just want them to be safe, right? I just want them to
Yeah,
feel like they're not alone. And it is so much, like, it's not easy, but like it's so much easier to want that for someone else and then be harsher or stricter or more prescriptive with yourself. And so
yeah,
like what a wonderful like exercise to like have children to reflect that and be like, "Oh, maybe that's what success looks for me too, is like if I'm happy and safe and loved and I'm sharing
yeah.
something that I love, maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe that's the
Right?
entire point."
No, it is because when that's what you want most for the people that you love most in the world, then like
Yeah.
shouldn't you want that for
Like, why
yourself?
wouldn't I want that for myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So, wrapping up a little bit, I want to give you a couple minutes at the end to just like talk about what's next for you. But I would also like to hear, I love to ask people like, what is just like one of your crazy dreams that you're like afraid to say out loud, where you're like, I don't know if that would ever happen. And like maybe it is just like, oh, I just want to be happy, or I want to do this forever, or I want a movie
I
deal.
still
But
have
I'm
crazy
always,
dreams, sorry.
yeah, I want to hear like what are those crazy dreams, whether you say them out loud or not, but like what are those crazy dreams you have? And also what's next for you? Because let's see what those like stepping stones look like on the way to those achieving those crazy dreams.
So my biggest dream is to have a TV show or a movie based on one of my books.
Love it.
I love movies. I'm a huge movie buff. I was almost a cinema studies minor in college. I actually majored in Spanish and French with a minor in Russian, and I was 2 credits away from.
I might study film, but then ended up in robotics.
I have a lot of
Now I
interest.
love it.
Turns out,
Multi-passionate, we call it.
if you are passionate about something, that'll
Mm,
take you far. If you're interested in something, that'll take you far because
yes.
people love passion and they love it when
Mm,
someone is interested in something they're interested in. And I found people are
yeah.
always happy to share their passion with you if you're equally passionate about it. So I ended up,
Ooh,
I
yes,
had a
if
very
you're
eclectic
equally
career.
passionate, right? Because also if you, I don't know if you get this, if you're a big dreamer, but like I'm so happy to always be the first one to share my dreams and what I'm passionate about. But the minute I feel like someone is meeting that with like judgment or hesitation or reservation rather than just with like, I'm excited for you too, I'm like, not sharing that with you anymore. Like, that's not for
Right?
you anymore.
Yeah. Yes. Passion begets passion.
Yes.
And so I I am very eclectic. I have a lot of different interests. I I taught English in Japan. I used to live in Japan. Then I
Wow.
realized teaching wasn't for me. I came back to the States and I managed a jewelry store for many years, actually.
Nice.
I'm a certified diamondologist.
That
That
doesn't even
wasn't,
sound like a real, I love
I
it.
know, right? It
Doesn't
sounds
sound
super
real,
cool.
but I'm
I
definitely
have
working that into
real
a
stuff.
story sometime. Like, no, they were a diamondologist. Yeah, no, that's a
No,
thing.
I know all the diamond facts. And then I worked in these robotics companies. And then now I'm following my real dream, which was to be an author. But throughout, like the common thread through all of those is I was just really passionate and interested about all of these things. I really wanted to
Yeah.
live in Japan, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And it was so cool and so fun. But teaching turns out was not my calling.
Mhm.
And then I like jewelry. Like, who doesn't like diamonds? And that was so fun. And robotics. I love robotics. I love all the sci-fi kind of stuff. That was so fun. So, but the thing that always has sparked the most joy for me was like these just storytelling in
Mhm.
general. So I'm super
So,
sorry I lost the thread of the
no,
question.
I was just thinking about like pulling us back there, which is like, okay, so if we look at the Midnight Pack in the series, if you've got 3 books, like, so the big dream, of course, is like that
Oh
becomes a movie series, right? And we get to go on
yeah,
this journey with these characters and we get to visually see what we're imagining in our head based on what you've written.
yes,
I think that's
100%.
beautiful. So, what is the next step in achieving that dream? It's you are currently editing book 2? Yes?
Yeah, so that book 2 is in the hands of my editor, and then she will make some edits, hopefully not too
Hmm.
many, and then
Yeah.
give it back to me, and I'll
Yeah.
act on those edits and give
So,
it back to her.
how can we support you? So obviously people should go pick up the Midnight Pack. They should
Yes.
follow you and they should come over to your house, follow you, just metaphorically.
Definitely. But yeah, thank you so much for asking that because yeah, so much of this it depends on you, the readers. So the
Mhm.
more people that are reading the Midnight Pack, or the more people that are talking about it, posting about it, writing
Mhm.
reviews,
Huge,
so
write
helpful.
reviews.
Reviews are huge,
Yes. Yeah.
and they're not for me. I don't read the reviews. Reviews are for the readers.
So that the
But
right people
me,
can find the right stories, right? And
exactly. So the right people can find the right story. And it helps so much too with the algorithm, just like spreading the word of your book. There are so many people in this world. Like, I know that there are more fans to be had. So I want to get it in as many hands as possible and hope that people love it. But yeah, reading the book, talking about the book, that will help me get to write more. And then hopefully we get to see it on a screen one day.
I just want to say thank you so much for opening up, for sharing your work and your world with us. And I cannot wait to watch your movies on the big screen someday. I'm so
Thank
excited for
you.
you.
Thank you
It was
so
so nice
much.
to meet you. All
It was so nice to meet you.
right, well, we'll talk soon. Thank you again, Jasmine.